It's another Herrera day today. There were a ton of animations done this time around, and we're starting right off with one that was, I think, finished? It looked like a run, turn sort of thing. I didn't speed this one up, by the way. This one was already sped up. A lot of the finalized ones, or ones I assume were finalized, in this set seem to be quite fast. And I would usually try to slow them down, but each time I've tried, they just kind of go even funkier, so I just leave them as he had it. And I mean, we'll see it in game eventually, and you can get a rough idea of what it's like anyhow. So, there were a ton done this time around. Like, a lot. Most of them were the injured ones. I missed the first few hours. I think he started around 9, and I started recording around 11-ish. So I probably missed most of the baseline for these, because once the run was done, when he was doing the injured ones, as you'll see, he just kind of starts posing the body a little bit and slightly tweaking how the Herrera moves. And so it wasn't a whole lot in that regard. There's one near the end where I tried to get a good chunk of how it was made, but first off is these ones because it's in order of appearance, I guess. The injured ones, again, he just had to do minor tweaks for the most part, and it was good to go. I do have the finished ones in between, and there'll be like a, what would you call it? A collection of the ones that seem to be done that I snagged from in between, because a lot of the injured ones, and it was a lot of injured ones, were very, very similar. Like, one of them I'm pretty sure was just the head movement, so I didn't include the making of that one. There were a lot of variants of the walk, ones with varying degrees of injury, I imagine, different parts that were injured, stuff like that. Rather than include the making of each one of those because it was so slightly different, I chose to show a little bit of a highlight of how he made some of them, show a collection of what I assume is the finished products, and then move on to the last one. The last one seems to be an eating animation, or at least that's what I think it is. And that one took him a long time to do compared to all the others. Like these injured ones, for instance, he rapid fired those. Like it was just bam, 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 done. He was so fast. So those got done pretty quick. That's why there's a huge just collection of them in there. Again, it was pretty samey. However, the last one, it took him a good long time. I had to shorten it quite a bit. There was a lot of him watching things in between, because he'll let the animation run quite a bit. You know, the usual. You guys have seen it by now. At some point or another, it looks like he's mostly just exporting the animations, and it's very possible I've missed a few in this because I'll speed it up, skim through, try to find what I can, and then go back and do the rest. So there might be one or two variants of the, or more actually, variants of the injured ones that aren't included here, but we'll see it eventually, and it's not too big a deal. They might show it off eventually at some point as well, who knows. But as you can see, lots of little tweaks and little things here and there when it comes to the injured ones. So that's why it's not quite as much as it could have been, because the stream did seem to go on for quite a while. I mean, a lot of his do, but I almost want to say this one could have been even longer. Though that could have just been the fact that, you know, it started really early. Whatever the case, lots to show here to make up for, hopefully, a little bit the lack of stuff in yesterday's, so this one's quite long when it comes to stream footage itself. I think I had it at 16 minutes for a while, and then I started slowly clipping down more and more. That is after already culling a vast majority of what was already there, and that I thought I might use, but sometimes while I'm going through it and watching it again, I notice, oh, he paused a really long time here, so I don't necessarily need this part, or, oh, this part's the exact same thing as another part over there, so I'll just take that out. Just stuff like that to try to make it go a little bit faster. Like, these things are very, very easy to just let go for a very, very long time. You guys probably noticed a lot of my earlier ones were like 30 plus minutes or something like that. And that's not the ideal in my mind. Like, sure, YouTube likes longer videos, but I sure don't. It's a lot more effort to, you know, chop it down, make sure everything kind of flows a little bit nicely. Like, I'm a little bit more lenient on that this time around because I don't care. The way he moves in the game, or not the game maker, the animation studio he uses is very janky anyway, so sudden movements aren't normally very noticeable. Like, a lot of the twists and turns that he makes that I think could have been me badly editing a portion of it was actually just him moving the camera around rapidly, so it works. It just works. After the injured part, like I mentioned, there's a portion, a decently sized portion, I'd say about half of what's here as far as his footage goes, I dedicated to making what I assume is the eating animation. And there's a portion of this where I thought it could have been just him playing around, and it could have been. However, he does use the pose that I thought was just him fooling around, so I mean, I just left it in because maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't really care at this point. It is what it is. It's part of what he was doing, so enjoy it. Could be a joke. Probably is. The more I look at it, the more I think it is. However, that's what I thought yesterday about the walk, so who am I to question it? Anyhow, eating animation. Again, took him a long time. Lots and lots of tweaks with this one. He had to completely change how the body was posed, and for a moment I almost wondered if he might have... this could have just been me and drawing similarities that aren't there, of course. But it almost looked like he could have used the Troodon's idol. You know, that one pose he uses when he stands really, really tall. It looked like he could have based it on that, and if so, that would be very, very clever. Like a good reusing of portions of stuff. I've mentioned Monster Hunter before because it's the game I happened to be playing at the time, so of course I'm going to be drawing parallels between the two. But we all know, those who have played it I suppose, Monster Hunter loves to reuse its rigs. It loves to reuse its animations. However, it still tweaks things enough that each creature looks different from others of its same rig. Like all the flying wyverns, for instance, they all share the same rig. They'll walk in a very similar, if not the same fashion. They hold their wings up in a really stupid way that I still hate to this day. But, you know, when you look at it, generally speaking, a flying wyvern from, you know, something else that might have wings but might not be considered quote-unquote a flying wyvern. Anyway, they reuse a lot of animations, is what I'm trying to get to. And in this case, because Troodon and Herrera are similar in very many ways, you'd think that would be pretty possible here. And when I saw certain posing at the start of its eating animation, I kind of wondered if that's what he did. I don't know for sure, it might or might not have been the case. I wasn't looking too closely, and I've got things to do, and I've got a lot of footage to go through. However, when I first saw it, that's what I thought, and I was like, huh, that's really clever, I'm glad they're doing that. Because I know back when Utah Raptor was first made, they'd talk about it being a baseline for a lot of their, you know, mechanics and stuff. Like, they'd test a bunch of stuff on the Utah, and if it works on the Utah, they'll slowly bring it out to the other stuff. In animations, depending on the rig and all that, you can generally do the same thing. Like how in a lot of games, all humans will share, you know, animations and all that stuff because it's the same general body type. When I look at Herrera and when I look at Troodon, there's a lot of similarities between their body types, like the long neck, the long nose, the way the arms and the hands are held, the way the feet are, minus the claw, of course, for Troodon. A lot of that looks very, very similar between the two. So, all things considered, you could probably, you know, nab a little bit from that guy, add a little bit from this one, you know, save yourself some time. Save yourself some heartache, that sort of stuff. Like, work smart. So it looks like that's could have been what he did. I don't know for sure. That's just what I thought when I saw it. And I guess in theory I could probably go back and try to deep analyze it or something, but frankly I don't feel like it, don't have the time. We're moving on. By this point, I hope that portion should be roughly done. So I'm just gonna go right to thoughts on this stream because honestly this one was pretty meaty. Very much beef for this one. So lots of animations done. Like a lot. Even if they were pretty samey, there was a lot done, there was a lot to look at. There was a lot to put here, as you can see. There was like, I think I shaved it down to about 11 minutes, a little over. after initially having 16 that I thought I'd use, and then I noticed I accidentally included portions that I didn't need. There could still be some of those, and oops, if so, but it is what it is. You guys get to see the process, I suppose, at least. But anyway, this one was really nice. I mean, it was a lot of locomotion, which was the injured walk you guys saw. However, there was also that eating animation, which had a lot of tweaking, a lot of posing, a lot of stuff he had to do that was different from just the walk cycle. And for me, that kind of stuff is the stuff I like to see. Stuff that's very, very different. Stuff that you can actually look and see, and it's just not the same slight arm movement, slight tail movement, slight move the head down, foot moves different directions sort of thing. It's very, very different. I think even now, and that's not including biases, the water Cerato one is my favorite, but that's one of the only water attacks we've seen, so I mean, you know. However, this one was also very, very entertaining to watch. As far as the other ones we've seen so far that I can remember, at least, this one is right up there. Because it's so vastly different, again, from the usual walks and stuff we get. And yes, the walks and stuff are very important. It's a majority of what you're going to be seeing in the game. Like, the walking, the different methods that you walk, running, trotting, turning, injuries, all that stuff. And then the alt attacks, of course. And basic attacks as well. All of that stuff is the baseline, and that's a lot of what you're going to be seeing. The eating as well, you're going to be seeing a lot. But it's very, very different from the normal set. It's the creature doing something completely different than just walking around. And the biting a lot of time is just a slight movement. Like, it's not just the head moving anymore like it was in the past. A lot of them will lunge, get their arms involved, stuff like that. But it's still a very toned down movement, I guess you could say. Basically what I'm getting at is it's vastly different from what you're normally going to be seeing your dinosaur do. The eating animations tend to be pretty different, depending on the creature, of course. Some of them are pretty subdued, but others, they really go at it. And it's entertaining to watch, it's something different to see, especially after a majority of the game being the same again and again and again. So I liked it, it was fun, it was nice to watch. The rest of this one was just minor tweaks, so it was okay. But the ending with the eating animation, I think, really pulled it through. It was fun to watch, entertaining. Hopefully it was nice for you guys as well. As usual, highlights, sped up, all that stuff. This in real time, I absolutely would have probably died. There were a lot of points where he'll just sit still and he'll focus on the emu cam and all that stuff. And I cannot imagine how long that takes in real time because I always watch it sped up. And even then it can be a huge chunk of the footage taken out. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm glad I wasn't actually just sitting through this. But aside from that, good stream, liked it a lot. Definitely up there in terms of favorites. And Herrera, I mean, not that anyone cares, not that anyone asked. Herrera is pretty high up there in terms of dinosaurs that I like the design of. When this render was first released, I was kind of like, on him because, to be honest, his render's a bit to begin with. The colors don't look nearly as vibrant as they do in the game itself. His pose, I don't know, it just makes him look, his head looks a little bit different. How he looks in the game, at least from what we've seen, and by in the game I mean the animation engine, and I suppose we've seen him pseudo in the game before, but, you know, that was mostly just screenshots and whatnot. Anyway, point is, his colors and stuff look more vibrant. The way his throat looks, the dewlap, all that. It looks a lot better than it did in the render. Which I find a little bit of a, probably something that shouldn't happen, because usually the render's showing off what you want the creature to be and how you want people to, you know, view it. You want them to get excited. It's the default look of the creature. You're seeing it in a fixed pose, like a figurine sort of thing. You want it to look nice. You want it to represent the creature. Herrera's is not very great. I actually didn't like it when I first saw it because of the render. However, seeing the colors and how vibrant they are in the game itself, again, when I say that, I more mean as close to the game as we've seen it so far, they look a lot better. They're not as muted, they look just all around more pleasant to the eye. But anyway, his design, it looks pretty charming. It's pretty cute. He's a surprise favorite, I suppose, similar to Troodon, which I didn't expect to like, but various portions of Troodon's design and his color scheme were very, very charming. So he won me over as well, and I imagine Herrera is going to do the same. However, on that note, I was watching back through this. As I voice this, I generally try to watch through it, for one, to audit the footage again, because sometimes I'll notice stuff the 50th time around I'm watching it that I didn't notice earlier. This time, when I looked at what I called the eating animation, and I probably have a note in there to this effect, it looks like it could actually be one of his bite attacks, but it was so active I didn't actually notice it. So when I was saying earlier, biting is usually not very active and usually very samey, this is why I always put usually behind everything. There's always something that breaks the rule. And in this case, credit where credit's due, it looks very, very nice. If that's what it is, it might not. It could be a shaking thing, like, you know, it could be when the predator picks up a carcass and thrashes it around, sort of thing. Like, the way he moves his head is part of what was throwing me off, and how active he was again. It looked like more of an eating thing rather than, you know, just biting. It could be related to an ability, although I think climbing, as far as we are aware, is all Herrera has. I don't know if they'll add anything else to it. They don't usually add too much to dinos, especially at the start. Like Troodon's Mimic, for instance, was completely axed, stuff like that. So I don't know what exactly this is, what animation it's supposed to be. The top still said locomotion during all of this, so it could very well be a bite. He might not have changed the title. Don't know. But the more I was looking at it, the more I was like, it kind of does look like a bite, doesn't it? But I kept the first section of it in because it still basically applies to what I was saying, even if it was, you know, under the wrong impression. I like animations that look different, and this is one of them. Like, it's not quite the same usual bite you'd see. I like the shake his head does. I like how his body moves. It's very, very active. It's very different from the usual you'll be seeing throughout the game. That was the core idea, and while the way I went about it wasn't exactly correct, or at least it doesn't look like it, especially when I consider we've already seen the animation, but they like to change animations all the time, so yeah, you never know these days. However, it's probably a bite. And when I titled this, I had titled it an attack animation, and then when I was watching it again the first time around while skimming, I was like, wait a second, that's too active. It looks like it might be just eating. So when I was voicing it, I was like, oh yeah, it's eating. But then when I'm looking at it again, I'm like, oh, it's probably attack. I was right the first time. But who knows? This is why I don't theorize on things, because it's very, very easy, especially when you're going through a lot of footage, to just skim over something and go, oh, that's what that is, or to not see it right. Like with the Troodon idol portion, I had thought that's what I was seeing the first time around, but when I watched it the second time, I'm almost positive that's what I saw, because I'm pretty sure he played basically the full idol during that time. So yeah, I'm pretty sure he took from the Troodon idol, and again, good on him. Credit where credit's due. Definitely a good idea. Just reuse what you can, tweak it how you gotta. It's just all around easier that way. And again, ×2, credit where credit's due. If it is a bite attack, I really, really enjoy it. It looks very active, it looks very different. I like the way his head shakes a little bit. I know in the dossier, I don't know if this is going to stay the same or not, but or I should say concept art. They're not dossiers anymore. It's concept art. Herrera took a little chunk off of Tanato. I do not know if that's still something that will exist. I know Giga's another one people would like that to have, and, you know, it showed it in its concept art as well. So it's possible that could be why he shakes his head, because it's not... That's something that really, really threw me off. It's not normal in a bite to do that. So I was like, well, this could be a thrash. It could be a bite and he just happens to shake his head. Maybe he does it while he's latched on, but we don't know if he'll latch or not. That sort of stuff. Like, all sorts of stuff that I could go, well, it could be this, it could be that. I shouldn't. I should just shut my mouth because it could be any number of things, and I have no idea. Whatever the case, it's a nice little animation and I enjoy seeing it. It was charming, cute, like it. Very active, and I like seeing stuff like that. Things like the Trudon animation, the idol that he took it from, I enjoy seeing just... I know it's in this community saying a creature with personality is memed upon because of how it's been used and how it's been done. However, I do enjoy seeing quote-unquote personality in creatures because it makes it seem less like just a static thing that you're playing. Like in a lot of shooter games, for instance, or a lot of games where there's humans, there aren't always too many idle animations. They'll usually just kind of sit there and sway slightly or move their arms if you're lucky. In little RPGs, of course, they'll bounce up and down. But I enjoy seeing things like someone sitting at a table and eating, or someone's sitting at a table and doing this or that, someone's walking around and it trips over, gets back up. Different things. So a little bit to show the thing's personality. And I could end up going right back to Monster Hunter with that, but I shouldn't. I think we're at about that time by now. I hope that I can just call it. We're good. As I've said before, I try to have roughly the same amount, if not more, of my section than the devs section. Again, goes into, you know, protecting and all that. But, anyways, today was better. Today was nice. This stream was nice. My voice is feeling better, and of course right now it's at the end of the video, so during the rest of this it sounds like I chewed on gravel the whole day. But that's how it is. I'm not going to record the whole thing again because it takes too much time, and anyway. I hope you guys have had a great day. There hasn't been too much movement on the SteamDB branches that we have available to watch. That could be a good or a bad thing. Like, sometimes they'll pause for a long while when they're fixing the last few things, and then they'll really push several in a row. Other times when they start going bam, 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 it means, oh yeah, there's something coming. Other times it doesn't. Honestly, I haven't been watching as much these days because it's a mixed bag. Like, you'll get some days where they're incredibly active and updating a lot, and then it just freezes for several days, and it's like, well, I thought you were close. And then other times when they update on the weekends, that's a really, really good sign. They updated on Saturday, however, nothing came of it. So, again, you just don't know anymore. We can hope something soon. I do look forward to playing it. In the meantime, of course, I'm busy with other games, doing other things. However, it is one on my list, and once it's out, I definitely want to give it a try. It's been a good long time since I've played the island. I want to see how it is. I want to see how it's doing. I've been taking a little peek at the feedback section again for the first time in a while, and it sounds like there's some somewhat concerning things, especially when you consider the descriptions of some of the creatures we've been seeing versus how they are in game, but I suppose that's a given these days. Again, we can go back to Trudon, where it talked about its mimic and all that, and then it turns out it didn't have it. We'll see how it goes. And I'm not going to say what I'm talking about, but I'm sure most of you probably know. So, we're all good. We're all done. It is time to wrap it. Have a great day, night, whatever time this is posted, or when you see it, or whatever. And goodbye!
Thank you.